네, 당은 저기 말씀제 담지기도 상요고 본토버쇼 선배 전주심지 군에 라제.
Good afternoon. This morning we looked at how once one has generated bodhicitta, under the motivated by bodhicitta, one engages in the six perfections. And engaging in the six perfections, for them, the minds of generosity and so forth, to have sufficient strength to accumulate the virtue required to attain enlightenment, one has to cultivate the union of calm abiding and meditative insight, this powerful focused mind that is also able to analyze. And in particular, when the wisdom, when it's combined with the wisdom realizing emptiness, then one can cut through the very roots of cyclic existence. We've been looking thus far at the Mahayana Dharma, in particular the stages of training of bodhisattvas within the Mahayana Dharma. So when we spoke about emptiness or selflessness, there I was talking from the perspective of the Mahayana, where there are two, selflessness of persons and selflessness of phenomena. But the selflessness of phenomena is only accepted by those who accept the Mahayana philosophical tenets. Those who do not accept the Mahayana philosophical tenets only accept the selflessness of persons, and do not talk about emptiness, nor the selflessness of phenomena. So amongst all those who are Buddhists, not all necessarily accept the Mahayana Dharma. So in terms of practitioners, one can divide the Buddhist practitioners into three types. Those of the hero or Shavaka vehicle, those of the Patyeka Buddha or solitary realized vehicle, and those of the Bodhisattva vehicle. So all Buddhists accept those three types of practitioners, but not all Buddhists accept the Mahayana Dharma. Some of the great teachers of the Mahayana are teachers such as Nagarjuna, Chandakirti, Bhavavyaka, and Shantideva. So these are great proponents of the Mahayana from ancient India, and we are followers of their tradition of the rejuvenated Mahayana. So within the Mahayana, as mentioned this morning, there are two parts. There's the Sutra Mahayana and the Tantric Mahayana. So the Tantric Mahayana or Vajrayana or secret mantra, here practitioners of the Mahayana Tantric division engage in Tantric practice by utilizing subtler levels of consciousness. In the Vajrayana, not only does the practitioner utilize subtler levels of mind, they're also working with the subtler levels of the body. So the body has many channels through which energy or wind flows, as well as having various chakras in the body, as well as drops or essence. So these are only presented in the tantric vehicle. They are not presented in the sutra, Mahayana Sutra vehicle at all. So where there is not just similarity, but where the presentation is the same between Sutra and Tantra, is everything that was in the Sutra is presented in the Tantra, and that the method by which to cultivate bodhicitta, and then the six perfections of bodhicitta, including the wisdom realizing emptiness. So here there is no difference at all. But the additional state or the unique stages of training of the Vajrayana, this involves meditating with or making use of the subtler levels of body and mind. One of the names utilized with Vajrayana as one, another common name is that of secret mantra. So this term secret, why is secret used? Well, it's because firstly the teachings are not given in general or given as openly as the sutra teachings. Rather, they are given just to those who have an interest. Whereas the Mantrayana, the sutra teachings, they are offered very openly, and anyone can come and access whatever parts that they feel that they are drawn towards. But those of Tantra, these are rather offered only to those who specifically have interest in it. So the word secret, whilst is the word that's used, so it's a correct translation. It's more, a clearer understanding is that of being private, and that is something that's taught in private. Likewise, the practice, it said the practice is secret, but there we can best understand that as the practice is done privately. One doesn't announce that one is a practice of Tantra, rather one does it in private. So this is how to understand the term secret in secret mantra. Even within the Mantrayana, the primary practices remain what we've looked at thus far, that of bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness. So do not think that what we've heard before is something separate from a tantric practice, but it is the primary practice within Tantra. In addition to these, one practices with the energies and the channels and the drops. Turning to the 10th verse. Having trained in the shared path and thus a suitable vessel, please inspire me so that I enter with ease the supreme gateway for people of immense fortune, the Vajrayana, the highest of all vehicles. Looking at the first line, having trained in the shared path and thus a suitable vessel. So having trained in the shared path, so the word shared or common, this refers to what is common to Sutra and Tantra. And what is common to Sutra and Tantra is all that we have covered before. So what this comes down to is the very foundation for Tantric practice is what has been covered. Those trainings which are shared with the practitioner of initial capacity, those trainings that are shared with the practitioner of intermediate capacity, and those trainings which are solely the practitioner of great capacity. Everything we've covered thus far, that is the foundation for Tantric practice. So, because it is the shared path between Sutra and Tantra. Then we heard earlier, a moment ago, Tantra has additional trainings on top of that, namely working with the subtle body and minds. So, having trained in the shared path and thus a suitable vessel. So, having trained in the practices of the Sutra vehicle, one becomes thereby a suitable vessel. So, if one has depending on how well or successfully one has trained in the Sutra vehicle, one is, to that degree, ever more qualified to be a suitable vessel. So if one has only trained to a limited degree in the shared paths, then one is, that the foundation is not as strong as if one has actually arisen as a bodhisattva, for example. So, but this is the meaning of having trained in the shared path and thus a suitable vessel. To engage in, to be a suitable vessel, to engage in tantric practice, one needs to have trained in the sutra paths. Of those who now start in the trainings of Tantra, there will be those who have gained realization of the sutra path, such as being bodhisattvas and therefore having realized calm abiding, bodhicitta, and a realization of emptiness. And there will be those who have not yet, who do not yet have those realizations, but they have been training in the sutra path and therefore are still suitable to engage in tantric practice. However, to give rise to the realizations of the tantric paths, they will need to have already gained realization of the sutra paths. In other words, be a bodhisattva and so forth. So to start one's tantric practice, one does not need to have attained a path yet, a path, in other words, be a bodhisattva, but to be able to give realization of the tantric path that is required. What I don't want you to, a misunderstanding I want you to avoid is to think that one has to have trained to a particularly developed level in sutra and only then go into tantra. That can be done, for example, arising as a bodhisattva and then start with tantra, but it does not have to be done that way. One can be well educated in the sutra vehicle and have quite some experience of training your mind in the various qualities, but not yet have become arisen as a bodhisattva and can engage in tantric paths, tantric training rather. Because what one should never think is that these two are separate, sutra and tantra. Whilst one can practice only sutra, those who practice tantra will have to be practicing the sutra as well, in the sense that the very motivation for any tantric practice are the two, the bodhicitta and the wisdom understanding emptiness. And these are explicitly taught in the sutra paths. So with whatever understanding one has of bodhicitta, again, whether one's a bodhisattva or not, and with whatever understanding one has of emptiness, whether one has realized it or not, one can engage in tantric practice. And then, as one engages in one's tantric practice, one is developing one's love and compassion further, and if one has realized bodhicitta, one is developing that further. Also, one's understanding or realization of emptiness is being developed further, and all 6 of the perfections are being practiced whilst one is engaging in tantric practice. So these two are not divorced, they're not separate, they are practiced together. But for one to be a fully qualified practitioner of Tantra, to gain the realizations of tantric training, one needs to have realized bodhicitta and emptiness, and have the union of calm abiding and meditative insight. So in our translation, the first line of the English and Tibetan match, but now we, as Geshe explains, is from the second line. In the Tibetan, we'll start at the bottom of the verse and work our way up. So having trained in the shared path, so that's in everything in the previous 9 verses, and thus having become a suitable vessel, the Vajrayana, the highest of vehicles. So now, amongst the different vehicles of the Dharma, the Vajrayana is the supreme vehicle, the highest of all vehicles. So it can be divided in different ways, the Sutrayana and the Vajrayana, of which the Vajrayana is supreme to the Sutrayana, though, and this should be clear, it is based in the Sutra trainings. It is not separate from it. The practitioner arising with their mind that is skilled in what they trained from the Sutra teachings is suitable to be a vessel for the Vajrayana, the highest of all vehicles. Then the third line, the supreme gateway for people of immense fortune. Of immense fortune. So this term fortunate is usually comes as fortunate. This is in relation to a precious human rebirth. Here it's mentioned people of immense fortune, and this is because they have met the tantric teachings and are suitably qualified to practice them. This makes them of immense good fortune. And Geshe use a specific term, something like they are able to engage in the very jewel of the Dharma, the precious jewel of the Dharma. So this is the supreme gateway, which is the Vajrayana, is for people of immense fortune, and those of immense fortune are those who are suitable vessels, and they are suitable vessels because they have trained well in the shared path. The final line in the Tibetan, our second line, please inspire me so that I enter with ease. So enter with ease will be referring to entering into the Vajrayana, entering through the supreme gateway. Entering with ease, this implies speed, so that one rapidly progresses in one's tantric teachings, one's tantric trainings. So ease in the sense of, with ease one speedily progresses. So this is what one's looking for inspiration with regard to, or the result from one's inspiration is that one progresses rapidly or progresses with ease. Summarized in the 10th verse. Having trained well in first, having reflected well on the sufferings of samsara, given rise to the determination to gain freedom, and also then applied that understanding to others, generating that thereby genuine love and compassion for all, developing that into actual bodhicitta, and that combining that with the wisdom realizing emptiness. So having both bodhicitta and wisdom, the wisdom realizing emptiness upon one's continuum, then one is a suitable vessel. And being a suitable vessel, and now also having the opportunity to engage, to enter through this gateway into the Vajrayana. This is a state of great fortune, of immense fortune. So please inspire me. This is again addressed to one's Lama, the Buddhas, and one's Yidam. seeking their inspiration, that one's practice goes well. Furthermore, having trained well in the shared path, meaning that one has generated a deep burning desire to become a Buddha as quickly as possible for the sake of others, to ease them from suffering and lead them to enlightenment. So one's generated bodhicitta, and one has a realization of emptiness, thereby understanding that enlightenment is entirely possible because I have experience of the antidote to the afflictions, so I know I can gain freedom from my afflictions. Then one has a genuine determination to become a Buddha. One wants now to go the fastest route possible. So now not only is one a suitable vessel, so this is having this genuine determination to become a Buddha, knowing that it's possible because one not only has bodhicitta but also an understanding of emptiness. One is a suitable vessel, but one's not only a suitable vessel. One has met the Vajrayana, the highest of all vehicles. And it's called the highest of all vehicles because it is the quick path, the fastest method by which enlightenment can be attained. So one is the practitioner is a suitable vessel, and this fastest of all methods, that this is the fourth line, the fastest of all methods has been encountered. This makes one now, so that was the fourth line, now the third line, this makes one a person of immense fortune. This term here for immense fortune means you through now being a suitable vessel and having the merit to have met the Vajrayana, now can enter through the supreme gateway and potentially even become a Buddha in this very lifetime. This heartfelt wish you have, this determination to become a Buddha so you can lead all beings to a state freed of suffering, you may well fulfill it in this very lifetime. Hence, you are a person of immense fortune. So the reason why the tantric path is so much quicker than the sutra path, because it's hardly comparable, the tantric path is much, much faster, is because of the quality of the consciousness that is utilized in Tantra to realize emptiness. So from the perspective of the object realized, emptiness itself, there is no difference between the object emptiness that is realized on either the sutra or tantric path. Where the difference comes is the quality of the consciousness that realizes emptiness. So as mentioned earlier, that in Tantra one utilizes far subtler levels of consciousness than in the sutra method. So here, in Tantra, a subtler level of consciousness is utilized. This subtler level of consciousness has far more power than the coarse level of consciousness that realizes emptiness on the sutra level. Therefore, on the tantric paths, because the consciousness that is realizing emptiness is so much subtler and therefore more powerful, one's antidote to eradicate the afflictions is much more powerful, and therefore one much more quickly eradicates the afflictions. And this can be likened to a boxing match, where you have two boxers, so they both are skilled in the arts of boxing. One is a heavyweight, and one is a featherweight. Huh? So let's say we are the boxers. So we either a heavyweight or we a featherweight. Now both, one is skilled and talented, but the power of the punch of the one is going to be far greater. Now Lama Tsongkhapa in the 11th verse presents how one goes about practicing. From that time, the basis for accomplishing the two kinds of siddhis is completely pure samayas and vows the Buddha did teach. Gaining genuine certainty of this, please inspire me to protect it as I do my life. So the very first thing one needs to do is enter the supreme gateway or the Vajrayana through receiving an initiation or empowerment. And an initiation or empowerment needs to be received from a genuine or authentic teacher. So just like a building has an entranceway, the entranceway into the trainings or the practices of Tantra is an empowerment or initiation. So the supreme gateway to Tantra is being either initiated into the practice or empowered to do the practice. So this is why the first part is to receive, or the first step is to receive an initiation or empowerment, initiating one into a practice, empowering one to do a practice from a genuine teacher. Thereafter, so looking at the first line, from that time now, having received an initiation, the basis for accomplishing the two kinds of siddhis, so the siddhis or realizations or accomplishments. So there are two kinds, those which are common and that which is uncommon. And the basis for accomplishing the common and uncommon siddhis is completely pure samayas and vows. So in an initiation, one receives the tantric vows as well as samayas. So vows are something that one accepts. I will and will not do these things. Samayas are things that come from the mouth of the initiating lama. So the teacher says, do this, don't do that. So these are samayas. So things that the initiating teacher tells you at the time of initiation, and the vows are the vows of Vajrayana. So these, the first step then is to receive an initiation. The second is having now received vows and samaya, to keep these excellently, completely pure, to keep them completely purely. That is the second step, because from that, one's practice will go well and eventually lead first to the various common siddhis and then to the uncommon siddhi. To give an illustration then of samayas, so in the initiation, the initiating teacher says, I want you to meditate every single day on bodhicitta, and not only that, I want you to meditate every single day on emptiness. So these are samayas. These are oral instructions, although that's usually used in other contexts, but it's something orally said, an instruction that the teacher orally gives. This is then a samaya. And when one accepts this, by receiving that, one of course accepts it. So it performs the function of being similar to a vow, because you accept this, you promise, yes, I will meditate on emptiness every day, I will meditate on bodhicitta every day. Third and fourth line, looking first at the third, gaining genuine certainty of this. So the of this refers to the samayas one has been given, the vows one has accepted. And there will be varying classes of this. There'll be vows associated with the various Buddha families, or the wisdom Buddha families, and there'll be vows associated with, or samayas associated with this particular practice one's doing, and so forth. So there'll be a number of samayas and vows that one gains genuine certainty of this, as well as then with the various practices that one is being advised to do as part of having received initiation into this practice. So this term translated as genuine. In other contexts, it's translated as uncontrived. So you can use that if you want, uncontrived or spontaneous certainty of this. But what it means is that one knows it understands the samayas and the vows and the various practices extremely well. So it's similar to the meaning of the next word, certainty. So one has complete knowledge over the training to engage in. Receiving it, this isn't just received in the initiation, but from one's spiritual teacher at various times. One continues to come to gain knowledge and thereby certainty in the various vows, samayas, and practices that one is engaging in. So here, then the fourth line, we are saying, please inspire me to protect them. So them refers to the vows and the samayas and the various practices that one is engaging in as I do my life. So here, one is gathering knowledge, training in the way that one is advised, and requesting inspiration to continue to do so no matter what obstacles come. The greatest obstacle would be a threat to one's life, but whatever obstacles come, to continue to strive in cultivating the causes for Buddhahood. Summarize the 11th verse, that from that time then refers to from the moment one now is relying on a genuine Vajra master and is receiving empowerment to being empowered to do a practice or being initiated into a practice, one also receives vows and samayas. So vows where one willingly accepts, I will and will not do that. Samayas are the verbal instructions one receives. And then the guidance one receives both then and later about the various practices that one needs to engage in. Doing this in a completely pure manner, so a faultless manner, training in the way that's advised, then one is developing the very, one is proceeding precisely in the manner to accomplish the two kinds of siddhis, those which are common and that one which is uncommon. So one needs to go through this process of gaining genuine certainty. So there's no shadow of a doubt about what is required of oneself and how to do so, and then to be doing so. For this, one requests inspiration. And of the various practices one engages in, the principal ones are the two, the generation stage and then the completion stage. This is the 12th verse. Then the essence of the classes of Tantra is the two stages. Having understood precisely the crucial points and striving in 4 sessions of yogic practice without weariness, please inspire me to practice just like the holy beings have taught. Look in the first line. Then the essence of the classes of Tantra is the two stages. The two stages are what we just referred to, the generation stage and completion stage. So this term translated as essence, here it means the main practice. The main practices of the classes, it means main, so I suppose it would be main practices of the classes of Tantra are the two stages. Then the essence of the classes of Tantra is the two stages, having understood precisely the crucial points. So the crucial points then would refer to, of the two stages, one starts with the generation stage. So one understands the essential points, the crucial points of the generation stage, so that one understands precisely how one should practice. So this term precisely means unmistakably. So one is engaging in an unmistaken manner in the various meditations that comprise the generation stage. Having then realized the generation stage, so the first of the two stages, one then is qualified to engage in the completion stage practice. And then one again comes to understand precisely the crucial points, but now of the completion stage, understanding the various aspects of the practices of the completion stage in a way that is precise or unmistaken. And then doing so and striving in 4 sessions of yogic practice without weariness, the third line. And the third line, in 4 sessions of yogic practice without weariness. So here it explicitly says 4 sessions, so that's clear. And then the expression without weariness emphasizes that it's not that one should just be doing this part-time, or not part-time, now and again, some days 1, some day 2, sometimes 4, not like that. One needs to be training consistently, and at this level, in 4 sessions of yogic practice. So this term without weariness is a new term, but throughout our time together, you've heard it throughout the path that's presented. One needs to train consistently, not sporadically. This is how the mind will change. So it certainly is the case at the higher levels, but it's the case throughout one's training. One needs to be consistent. The final line, please inspire me to practice just like the holy beings have taught. So here we're asking for inspiration to practice in the same way that the great masters from the past have practiced, those whose biographies we've read and been inspired by, as well as the great masters of the present, such as our own spiritual teachers. So looking at the 11th and 12th verses together. So the first line of the 11th verse, from that time, the basis for accomplishing the two kinds of siddhis. So the two kinds of siddhis are the results. So how does one go about attaining a result? One accumulates the causes. The first cause is referenced with the expression from that time. From that time of receiving empowerment or initiation, one needs to, the second line, come to understand one's samayas and vows very well so that they can be kept completely purely. Moreover, then from the 12th verse, the essence that the two stages need to be understood, or the crucial points of the two stages need to be precisely understood. So first, one receives initiation. Secondly, one comes to understand this isn't in a sequence, it's all one needs to come to know. One receives initiation, needs to come to understand well the vows and samayas, and one needs to understand the crucial points precisely of the two stages. So first the generation stage and later the completion stage. So these are the causes that need to be accumulated. Again, initiation needs to be received, and in the initiation one receives vows and samayas. These need to be known so that they can be kept completely purely. One then also needs to understand the practice one is meant to be doing. So in terms of first, the generation stage, one needs to have precise understanding of its crucial points. And then later, one needs a precise understanding of the crucial points of the completion stage. Those are the causes that lead to the attainment of the result of the two kinds of siddhis. So I've referenced a couple of times that there are these two kinds of siddhis, as referred to in the first line of the 11th verse. So the two kinds are those which are common and that which is uncommon or unique. Uncommon is better. So that which is common, or those which are common siddhis, mean that they are held by a number of different types of beings, whereas those which are or that which is uncommon is only held by a single type of being. So those then which are common are held by ordinary beings, which would include both non-bodhisattvas as well as ordinary bodhisattvas, and they are held by Arya beings, so Arya Bodhisattvas and Arya Buddhas. So again, the common siddhis are held both by ordinary beings as well as Arya beings, whereas the uncommon siddhi refers to the state of union, and the state of union is only attained by Buddhas. The state of union is another expression of Buddhahood. So therefore, the uncommon siddhi is something that solely Buddhas have, being enlightened, whereas the common siddhis are held by both ordinary beings as well as Arya beings. So thereby we've covered very briefly the many stages of training of the paths of mantra in these three verses. From what I said at the beginning of our class together now, I hope it's very clear that in order to be a qualified practitioner of Tantra, a suitable vessel, it's imperative that one has trained well in the sutra paths, having cultivated definite emergence, bodhicitta, and emptiness. When one has trained well in those preliminaries, then one is ready to receive initiation and vows, samayas, and gain teachings in how to practice the generation stage. And why is it imperative that one needs to have trained well in the sutra paths before? The very basis of tantric practice is bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness. If one, to the extent that one has given rise to these within oneself, one is able to practice Tantra. If one is not well trained in bodhicitta and emptiness, one cannot be a practitioner of Tantra. And a side note from this, for someone to be a practitioner of Tantra, they do not need to have a particular outer appearance, such as long hair. what they need is to be trained in sutra. They need to have been trained in particular in bodhicitta, which arises from definite emergence, and the wisdom realizing emptiness. So we've finished quite early. So if you have questions, there's really some time. So thank you for that question. So the first part of the answer will be this. So how does one know whether one is ready to engage in Tantra or not? Well, there are two ways. Either you know for yourself, and or you're encouraged by a teacher. So how does one know oneself? One has trained well in sutra, coming to understand the faults of psychic existence, given rise to some kind of revulsion for that, and which is the very basis for bodhicitta, and at least having some appreciation and aspiration for bodhicitta. In other words, one doesn't have to be a bodhisattva. And then in terms of emptiness, one has an understanding of emptiness, and has some understanding of the three, definite emergence, bodhicitta, emptiness. And then, moreover, one has some understanding of Tantra and recognizes the great benefit that comes from familiarizing oneself with Tantra, from applying oneself to Tantra. So this is how one, from one's own side, knows whether one is ready or not. And that is sufficient. Then one can go on and receive initiation and so forth. But because at such a point, you will be quite clear in your mind. So that's in the 11th verse, the third line. You will be certain that for me to engage in Tantra will be worthwhile. There's not some fault that is going to follow. So this is how one knows from one's own side. In addition to that, one may well be encouraged by one's teacher, but that isn't necessarily required. Just before I gave what Geshe said now, as a translator, I didn't get across clearly in the previous answer. So by having studied and practiced well sutra, a yearning arises for Tantra, because you have an understanding of Tantra. So one has a yearning, a deep desire for it. So this then, in dependence on your training in sutra, in those three minds of definite emergence, bodhicitta, and emptiness, as well as an understanding of Tantra, one has a yearning, a deep desire to engage in Tantra. So this is how one knows from one's own side, and then one may or may not be encouraged by one's teacher, depending on the contact one has and so forth. Now to what Geshe just said. So to answer your second question, which is, does one have to practice Tantra? And no, not at all. This is entirely a personal decision. If one has this yearning, this deep desire to do so, and one has one is a suitable vessel, one has good training in sutra, then one should do so. But if one doesn't have that yearning, then no need. Continue with the sutra paths, continue with your sutra practices, striving to cultivate the paths of the sutra within, becoming a bodhisattva, progressing to realize emptiness, and so forth. So the subtle body is not what one visibly sees or can be ascertained through surgery and the like. So it's subtler than that coarse body which we generally are quite aware of. So the chakras, there are 5 main chakras: at the crown, at the throat, at the heart, at the navel, and the secret area, so the sexual organ. So there are these 5 chakras. Then there are many channels, or energy channels, that of which there are 3 primary ones: a central one and a channel on the left and right of that. So these are the 3 main channels, and then there are many branch channels. So these three channels, the left and the right, their energy flows in those, but the central channel is energy doesn't flow in that. So as a translator, I use the word energy. In many books, you'll have the word wind, because it's the same word. So energies flow in the left and right channels, but not in the central channel. And the reason it doesn't flow in the central channel is because there are knots in the central channel. So what the meditator will do, and you have to say clearly, this description is of the two stages. This is from the generation stage. So the practitioner, when doing this meditation, will have already developed the union of calm, abiding, and meditative insight. So with such a mind, with such a powerful mind, but it's still a coarse mind, they will be directing energy down the channels, trying to loosen these various knots. And the whole purpose of doing this is so that at first they are utilizing coarser consciousnesses, but as they progress in their general generation stage training, they will be able to access subtler levels of consciousness. And eventually, there would be the goal to access the subtlest level of consciousness at the center of the heart chakra and utilize that to realize emptiness. Because that is a consciousness we just cannot make use of in our life. So this practitioner is striving to, because as was said earlier with the unique aspect, why Tantra is so fast, is because of the subtle consciousnesses that can be accessed, and particularly the subtlest. If that's used to realize emptiness, the mind is so powerful that one can gain liberation and enlightenment. So therefore, this process of trying to untie the knots of the central channel is done first with coarser consciousnesses, later with subtler ones, eventually trying to access that subtlest consciousness, subtlest level of consciousness, to utilize that to realize emptiness. So the practitioner who's actually doing this is really already quite an advanced practitioner. Sorry, just to correct one error there. This is what I've been describing here is completion stage practice. I said it was generation stage practice. This is completion stage practice. The generation stage practice preceded this. So to be able to do that completion stage practice, so the second of the two stages, one needs to have already a very powerful mind. So the mind of the union of calm abiding and meditative insight. But consciousness that is the union of calm abiding and meditative insight will already have been developed to a point where it is already a powerful and subtle consciousness. Because the practitioner who's meditating with the winds and the energies and the channels and the drops, they are engaging in completion stage practice, which means they have necessarily already completed the generation stage practice. The generation stage practice consists of the cultivation of the specific cultivation of the union of calm abiding and meditative insight. So when one enters into actual tantric practice, one starts here with the generation stage, and will be cultivating the union of calm abiding and meditative insight. So of those who start with tantric practice, there will be those who have already developed the union of calm abiding and meditative insight on the sutra paths, and those that have not, and need to develop it for the first time with the tantric training. So either is possible. What would be best is if it was already developed on the sutra paths. Why? It's much easier, because the object realized is far coarser, and whilst that means the consciousness realizing, the consciousness of the union calm abiding meditative insight is coarser, at least one has already reached that level. Because when one engages in actual generation stage practice, one starts with a visualization of the mandala and its various deities. So this is quite a complex visualization, and there are many different ones depending on the deity one is practicing, whether it's Guru, Samaja, or another. So in the generation stage practice, you're developing this complex visualization of the mandala, and in this way you're developing the union of calm abiding and meditative insight. And when you have developed the union of calm abiding meditative insight on the mandala, that is a highly developed mind that is holding the mandala with calm abiding meditative insight. But then one starts to develop that meditation to subtler and subtler levels. So this then is all still on the generation stage, the first stage. What one is doing is developing one's consciousness, which is the union of calm abiding and meditative insight, but at far subtler levels, so it's much more powerful. when one eventually comes to complete the generation stage and move to the completion stage, one's meditating consciousness is very powerful and subtle because of the unique training that one goes through on the generation stage. Okay, and that's exactly 4 o'clock. So then thank you very much. We'll conclude there today. Thank you for your questions.